Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this week's episode, we have Super Bears, Super Bowl, the Cubs making a weird signing, the Bulls still stink, and the Blackhawks remember how to play. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is in full swing, and they are playing a really awesome schedule in a really great arena. Fun for the whole family. Less than 90 minutes from the city limits. Check them out. Icehogs.com. Tell them Swirsky Sports sent you. Alex, we are one step closer to getting that first round bye. And the playoffs coming about, and we got a road win. I think that's something to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll take the win. I'm not going to complain about a win. I am going to say this, though. That was one of the least enjoyable wins I have ever watched. And it wasn't just because the Bears didn't look all that great through much of it. It's just that was a terrible football game. It had some of the worst officiating I've ever seen. There was a bunch of chaos, and just the quality of football in that game was just terrible. But we're 11-4, so I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what is... This is like the first time all season long we've complained about turf and the field conditions, which is crazy because typically Soldier Field has the worst field conditions. But this new stadium in San Francisco is bad. There was all kinds of slippage. Kyle Fuller slipped and, turned his ankle, ended up being okay. You saw Cody Parkey bite it on a kickoff. It's a terrible field. So you can add that to your list of things that stunk about this game.
Yeah, I didn't really think that there would be a worse turf than Soldier Field, but I was wrong on that one.
And here we are.
But
you're right. This was, I mean, I'm not going to hate. Wins in the NFL are tough to get. And a win on the road is tough to get. You look at any team in this current season, and all of them struggle on the road. New England has struggled on the road. Kansas City has struggled on the road. The Rams have struggled on the road. The Saints have struggled on the road. The Bears have struggled on the road. If you look at all of the games that we've talked about that, oh man, the Bears should have won this game. The Bears should have won this game. All road games. I mean, it's the elephant in the room that nobody really wants to talk about, but the Bears really struggle on the road. The defense comes out for, not always, but the defense has, been better on the offense on the road. But overall, this team has not been good on the road. Miami game in Miami, not good. Giants game in New York, not good. That first game in Green Bay, not good. Today, terrible game. And, lucky enough to come out with this victory.
It's kind of like the Arizona game.
Yeah, I mean, What are the Bears now? 11-4, and they
Yep.
went 7-1 at home.
Yep.
So, what are they 5-3 on the road then?
Yeah. Yeah, they have three of their 4 losses are on the road. The only really dominant road game that they had was in Buffalo. I thought that probably outside Buffalo, you could look at all their road games and say, well, they all looked bad. It's like, okay, most of them do, yeah. The Lions game, I thought, considering they had played on Sunday night, considering it was their backup quarterback, that was a pretty nice win, all things considering. So I'm not going to really count that one in there. But yeah, I mean, you see a lot of similar things on the road for the Bears. A lot of dumb mistakes, a lot of just sloppy play. And that's what I mean, the Bears couldn't hang on to the football today. Even when, like, the guy was down several times, they just couldn't hang on to the ball.
And I just realized I did some wrong math. They're 4-3 on the road this year. Right,
because they have one more.
They have one more.
One more to go.
So, I mean, the old adage in the NFL is win all your games at home and split the games on the road, and you'll be 12-4, and you win your division usually. And that's kind of what the Bears have done. They 7-1 at home. They one loss was to the Patriots, where they they just barely missed that Hail Mary. Well, they got the Hail Mary, just didn't get quite into the end zone. And roughly 500 on the road. It's it depends on what they do to Minnesota. They're going to be 5-3 or 4-4, but for the most part, they're a par team on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you this because some people seemed really kind of concerned about it. And I think it is fair to be somewhat concerned in terms of looking ahead to the playoffs. I mean, they've gotten enough road wins to already win a division. There's, that's not really what people are questioning. People are questioning, okay, you get that first round home game, but let's say you win that and then you have to go on the road in the playoffs. Is there cause for concern there? And I think that with a young quarterback with no real playoff experience at all, having kind of struggled on the road as a team, not just him, I think that there is some room to worry. Do I think it's going to be like, oh, no, all their chances are gone. There's no way. I wouldn't say that. But, I think there is some cause for concern.
Here's the thing is if they end up not getting that first round bye, which, I mean, let's be honest.
I don't think they are. No.
Yeah, to be honest, is this San Francisco team is going to have to go on the road to the Rams and beat them next week. And then the Bears are going to have to beat the Vikings. That's the way to do it. I don't see that happening. I mean, stranger things have happened. So, I
just wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, I'm not counting on it. I'm not counting on anything. But the Bears have locked up at least the number 3 position. They can't fall any lower than 3. And they've got, a slim chance of getting that number 2 spot. But, most likely they're going to end up hosting a game that first week, which they're going to have to take care of. And they're going to be playing a team either in the Seahawks that they beat, but, was a fight. And that team is playing much better right now. They got to play that team, or they got to play the Vikings, who they'll have played back-to-back weeks, and for the third time in the season. Or you're gonna have to take on the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, the Eagles, they got a chance to get in. That's not a team I really want to face right away.
I don't think Nick Foles can beat the Bears. I'm not worried about Nick Foles. So I don't know. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of any of those teams. It's just you actually have to beat those teams to worry about going to the next round.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's true.
And the Eagles, here's their shot at making the playoffs. The Eagles will make the playoffs if they beat the Redskins next week and either the Bears beat the Vikings or Seattle loses this game that they're playing right now against Kansas City and they lose to Arizona, which I'm really doubt is happening. So basically they need the Bears to beat the Vikings and they need to beat the Redskins. And then they would make that 6th seed.
Right.
And go on to play the Bears. So, I mean, the Eagles have a hope. They basically need the Bears to play all their starters next week. But I mean, if the Bears take care of business at home like they should, then they'll go on to face the Rams in Los Angeles. And you're right, that's no easy task. It's a long flight. There's definitely home field advantage, but if the Bears are going to win that game, Mitch Trubisky is going to have to play a very good game because they'll have to put points on the board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I thought Mitch did okay today. I don't think he was as bad as some people have said. I actually thought he did overall a pretty good job today. You obviously want a little more than 14 points total, but, considering that one of the good drives ended in Allen Robinson fumbling, you had a few drives that looked good to start and then just kind of stalled. But, you're right. You do need Mitch Trubisky to be really good / great on the road if you want to, keep going here. The Bears are just going to have to prove that if they really are a Super Bowl contending team this year, 1 year earlier than most people expected, then yeah, you gotta win these games. It's no other way around it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because if you just look at the numbers, Mitch had a very good game.
Yeah.
25 of 29, only 4 incomplete passes, 246 yards, a touchdown, and a 113.5 quarterback rating.
Well,
if you tell somebody that you're going to go on the road and put up those numbers, you probably expect to win that game, and then the Bears did. But you're right. It was the ugliest 113.5 quarterback rating I've ever seen.
Well, the thing with I thought about the offense today was it was best when it was simple. You saw some of those touchdown drives. I mean, there were only 2 of them, but you saw that last touchdown drive where they got the lead. Simple, short plays, you spread it around. That's when they're at their best. Trubisky wasn't bombing passes downfield. He did only a few times. One was a great catch by Robinson. One was picked, but then, obviously you had it called back. But, Mitch was mainly just kind of throwing checkdowns and, slants, nothing really too fancy. And, he was able to complete all of that. And I really thought that it was impressive that he made some very nice throws towards the end of the game after he got his head nearly taken off. And, they shouldn't have given the ball away. That was all on Allen Robinson. But, if Allen Robinson hangs on, then they pretty much end the game right there. And they'd probably just run the ball a few more times and run out the clock. So, despite fumbling it away, it was a good drive by Mitch on that last one.
Yeah. And honestly, if you look, if you can sort of break it down, is on the road games, Matt Nagy has really asked a lot less of Mitch than he does at home. Mitch takes a lot more chances, opens things up a little more. It's a lot more It's weird. It's a conservative ask of the quarterback, but you still have, it's not a conservative play calling, but it's conservative asks of the quarterback. So
I just see it as just more simple. It was a simpler game. That's the way I see it.
they're not asking Mitch to make, if it's 3rd and 15, they're not asking him to throw for that first down. They're going to ask him to, they're going to try to do some sort of end around or a delayed draw or a screen to get it. They're not asking him to drop back and throw for 17 yards. I mean, he has and he will, but they're not asking him to do that on the regular. It's a lot more of a tempered ask of Mitch Trubisky, which, you got to protect your quarterback, not from physical harm, but from, being a young quarterback and making mistakes on the road that's the concern.
Right. And I mean, his one big mistake was luckily washed out. I mean, you saw the great athleticism he had, but, that throw should have never been made. That was a disaster from the beginning. But yeah, you saw the overall. I mean, I'm watching the highlights right now on my screen. A lot of it's just quick check down passes, but you know what? It worked and everyone was working together. The run block was holding up very well today. I thought it was as good as it's been in a while. You had Howard and Cohen doing their thing. Really from Howard. Cohen didn't get that much time today like he has in the past, but they were using more Jordan Howard powering through, which I think was the right move here because it worked. But again, it was very simple. The only time you got super creative, you fumbled it away, and that wasn't just super creative. That was just flat stupid.
Here's my, if we're looking at the Bears offense, my concern in this game, and it has been in the, a lot of the more recent games, is Matt Nagy tries to get too cute with plays. If something's working, he won't, he won't just stick with it. He tries to do something cute. Oh, Jordan Howard with power runs working, and you got a short yardage situation. Oh, let's have a quarterback roll out and try to, give him the option to throw a back pass. It just doesn't make sense. Is hand the ball to Jordan Howard.
It's not necessary. There's no reason for it. There's no reason to do that when you just need to give the ball to Howard for a yard.
That's the things is, Mitch Trubisky is trying to make things happen. And honestly, so the play we're talking about is the one where it was second and 1. Trubisky started to run for it, realized he wasn't going to make it, tried to throw a backwards pass to Tariq Cohen. And since it was a backwards pass and it was dropped, it's a fumble. And the 49ers picked it up. And honestly, I think Tariq Cohen didn't realize that was a backwards pass and dropped it on purpose because he knew it was going to get, lost yardage. I think that's what happened. I watched it a couple times and I was like, I think he dropped that on purpose.
Interesting.
And that's the fatal flaw with, or the Achilles heel of Tariq Cohen, is his awareness sometimes in the game isn't so good. Like a lot of people criticize him for going out of bounds too soon, and I don't criticize him for that because he is a smaller guy. He can't take these punishing, bruising hits, but he also has to be aware of where he is on the field. And if you notice, is after last week when he went out of bounds like a yard too short when he could have gotten that first down, this week he stayed in bounds and took a hit for no reason. He's got to grow his football awareness, on-field awareness. That's a must. I mean, he's a really talented guy. You can see the athletic things he can do, but to take that next level, he has to go to the next level as far as his football knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of looking at it. You look at some of the things that Tariq Cohen does, and sometimes you say, no, 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 and then all of a sudden you're going yes, 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 yes on the same play. So it's kind of funny how that works. But, today, like I said, Cohen didn't really have that much impact in the game. It was a lot more Jordan Howard. But I know exactly what you're talking about. When you referred to that play last week when they could have gotten the first down, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I got to go back and look back at that other play that you said where he purposely dropped it.
I mean, I don't know if he did or not. It looked to me like he did. And because he realized that he was going to get wrapped up right there. But that's just my perception of it. I'm not going to say for a fact, but that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Again, I got to look back just to kind of give a second opinion, but I just remember when that happened, I was literally just banging my head against a wall because, again, why? When you're 2nd and 1, how is that necessary at all? It's not.
Yeah, it is not, especially when you've had Jordan Howard running the ball fairly well, is just run it twice. Run it twice.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's plays like that where Nagy will drive you crazy. He's a good football player or football coach. He's just learning on the job. And this is his first head coaching job. He still has limited amounts of play calling, in-game play calling opportunities. And he's going to get better. I think we've said it before is when he watches during the off season, he's going to sit down and he's going to watch every single play that he called. And he's going to look and could I have done this better? What should I have done? Look at the clock. And I bet you he goes back and recalls plays and, watching the where they're at on the field. And he's going to probably re-simulate games and recall them. And, what would I have done differently there? What would I have done? And he's going to learn from it. And he's going to grow. And I think it was said before by, I can't remember who, it was Bill Polian maybe, that the Bears got the right man just a year too soon, and they wouldn't have got him otherwise. But, next year, I think he's going to be a much better head coach because, and I think he's a good head coach. He's just going to take that next level and take the off season and really get his playbook in and learn from the mistakes he made.
Yeah, and I also think that it was kind of nice to see today that in the second half, play calling wise, I thought the second half offensive play calling was pretty good. Again, the last drive was a fumble, but they were moving the ball pretty well, and it was nice that they were keeping it simple in the second half. That's when they did it best today. I mean, they scored the touchdown almost, I think it was their first drive of the half. Yes, they scored their touchdown to take the lead.
I believe so.
Yeah, so I mean, you saw some nice adjustments there. It was just so nice that go-ahead scoring drive because it was such a simply nice executed drive. There was, sure, you like some fancy plays that work out here or there. You like some deep balls, yada, yada. But, it was just so nice to see everyone just keeping it simple and doing what they were supposed to do. You had some short passes. Guys made their catches. They were able to fight their way for first downs, and you were able to use Jordan Howard the way you've wanted to use Jordan Howard. That's when I think it's done best.
Yeah. I just, this offense just sometimes just boggles my mind. And then sometimes you're just so amazed. Again, the Bears went into the red zone and they got touchdowns instead of field goals.
Yeah.
And I think that has been a huge upgrade over what we've expected from the Bears in recent memory. I think you get into the end zone and it's 2 runs, a pass, and then a field goal. And now you expect touchdowns, and when you don't get them, you're bewildered. So that's a plus. Matt Nagy might be the best play caller in the NFL inside the red zone, but when you look sometimes at the play calling selection outside, between the 20 and the 20, is he has just absolutely ridiculous play calls. And this week in this game, you saw a lot of plays that you haven't seen before. And I don't know if that was hey, this game, we're playing this game to win, but we're going to try out plays that we haven't run before to give teams that are scouting us something else to look at. Or if they're running those plays because they want to run them eventually in a meaningful game. Or, I don't know what the situation is, but Matt Nagy had quite a few plays in this game that he called that I haven't really seen before, or different plays out of the same formation. And I'm just, I find it curious, the timing, and to try these things out on the road.
Well, I think since you had a division title wrapped up, you could try a few of those things.
Some of the plays, they were oof. I'm hoping that they just, leaving the Vikings and whoever they play in the first round, having to scramble a little bit, going, the Bears have more cards up their sleeves than we thought they did, and making them, question what the Bears are going to do a little more.
Yeah, we'll see. There's one other kind of concern I have, and this isn't anything new to anybody, and I really don't know the solution here. Not at all. What the heck are we going to do about kicking? I do not trust Cody Parkey at all. I in the playoffs, I don't. What could you do about that?
I mean, there's nothing to be done at this point. You're not gonna bring in a new kicker for week 17 in the playoffs. Your ride or die with Cody Parkey, and the hope is that you just don't put yourself in a position where you need to kick a lot of field goals.
Right, you gotta score
touchdowns. That's kind of the mentality that you have to go in. That you're not gonna. This would have really been bad news for a John Fox coach team, because they're like, oh, hey, we're gonna get the ball and get as close as we can and try to kick a 50-yard field goal because we can't get any closer.
Well, if this was a John Fox team, we wouldn't be in this position. So
touche. But this Matt Nagy coach team is one that they're going to push the envelope. They're going to take chances, and they're really going to try to score that touchdown. And the field goal is the last resort. And so most of the time they're not asking Cody Parkey to kick these 50+ yard field goals. But on the other hand, he just hasn't been very accurate from within the 40, which should be almost gimmies for an NFL kicker.
Right. I mean, the one he missed today, it's not like it was a long field goal. It was what? 39 yards, maybe a little more. I thought
it was 37.
Was it 37?
Yeah.
I just knew it was in the 30s or the low 40s. I don't.
Yeah, 37 yarder. So it's one that he should have made, and it's one. Yeah, it was within the Connor Barth bragging range. Within 40, I am deadly. But it's. I mean, I don't know what to do here, because you're riding with this guy, and he's hit some big kicks for you, and he's missed some real stinkers. So the special teams is a real wild card, because you've had games where the Bears have looked very good in special teams. You've had games that it's lost them. Cough, the New England game, cough.
Yeah, that's always a problem. I mean, today you had some good special teams play, like, basically on defense, but You had some penalties when you were receiving the ball today. You obviously had the missed kicks, so certainly wasn't a flawless day for the special teams. You defended well, but not exactly on offense.
Yeah, so it's you do your best to score touchdowns, and if you can't, you try not to attempt long kicks unless it's a must, and you go, you punt if it's going to be a long kick. It's all you can really do at this point.
Yeah.
What else do I have? Handling the ball. Even though a lot of those times that the Bears lost the ball, they were down, knee was down, butt was down, but still
they couldn't hold on.
You got to make sure you're hanging on. Yeah, you got to make sure you're hanging on to the ball. Ball security is imperative, and that's an absolute must. And even though a lot of them were either were overturned or just called down by, the ground caused the fumble, or their knee was down by contact or whatever. There was way too many balls that were coming out, and you had almost costly one at the end where they could have just maintained the offense on the field and run the clock out. And instead, you gave San Francisco 49ers the opportunity to try to get a win, because Allen Robinson tried to extend the play and got the ball punched out from him. And from a team that is going to set the NFL record for least number of takeaways in an NFL season.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's so a Chicago sports thing, is when your opponent is really terrible at something, they kill you with it. So that was kind of ironic. It is funny, though. I will admit that during that fumble, I shouldn't say during, like right after, because I wasn't thinking about the fumble as it was happening. But after it happened, I will admit I actually was more just annoyed than worried, because I didn't think the 49ers were going to drive down and score. Most other teams, I'd say, yeah, I'm really worried as heck right now. But, today I was kind of like you, where I was just kind of calm. I was really more annoyed than anything. It's like, come on, you would have ended the game right there. This is kind of unnecessary. But yeah, this is one time where I could say I was incredibly confident that they weren't going to do anything. And they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. But it's just the Bears' offense was very anemic today. I mean, the one touchdown drive had to get bailed out on a face mask call by Buckner, and I know that the announcers were making it seem like, oh man, it was a mistake by Buckner. And, Jordan Howard, give him credit, is he made a move, and Buckner was grasping at ghosts and just reached out and grabbed his face mask. So it's, he helped create that, but still it was a penalty kept that drive alive that otherwise probably would have stalled.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, they were at their best when they were simple, but there was still a lot of bad going on. Also, I want to say this. The main reason I'm glad we won this game is so we wouldn't have to hear Robbie Gould Revenge Game 2.0, because if I had to hear that today, I probably would have puked. I'm so sick of hearing about Robbie Gould. And oh man, everybody just making up things about like why he's gone is, it was a cost-cutting measure. The Bears were being cheap. No, here's the thing. And you can write revisionist history however you want. This is the reasons he's not here anymore. This was a losing team. Robbie Gould was a holdover from a previous head coach and was making waves, and you can't have your kicker making waves with a new regime. He was a holdover from Lovie Smith, loyal to Lovie Smith, and when he was in a new coaching regime, he made a lot of noise,
especially since they were losing. That was reason one. Reason two is he was one of the highest paid kickers in the league. So it was somewhat money. And why are you going to pay a guy if he's making waves? But the most important reason is he stunk on ice that last season with the Bears. And he even admitted it. He even admits that he had a terrible year with that Bears, and he understands the decision. If you have a kicker that's not hitting kicks, he lost you games, he's making waves in the locker room, and in talking about locker room business to the on the radio, on sports talk shows, and he's one of the higher paid kickers in the league, it's a trifecta. You move on, and that's what the Bears did. I mean, if the Bears had, a crystal ball and could look forward and be like, you know what, if we ride it out with Robbie, and we could still have his kicking when we have a really good team. Yeah, they would do it in a heartbeat. But you can't see into the future when you make these decisions. You have to make decisions based on the information you have at that point. Robbie, and those three factors, and Robbie just didn't fit in those plans anymore based on those factors.
And the thing is, you can't change anything about it. Complaining about getting rid of Robbie Gould 4 years ago is not going to change anything.
Yeah,
you can't go back in time and he's magically going to be on the Bears again. That's not going to change anything.
Yeah, and stop talking about it as a revenge game. Is Robbie Gould said he's going to take his kids to the playoff game because he's still a Bears fan and he keeps his home in Chicago. He's rooting for the Bears. He wasn't today, obviously, because he wants to win, but he on any other Sunday, he's rooting for the Bears.
Right. Plus, let's face it, even if the Bears would have lost today, it's not like they wouldn't still not be the division champs. Their chances at a first round bye would have been gone, but that's already pretty unlikely as it is. So, it's just, I'm so sick of it. And then, of course, on television, Tom Brenneman's going on and on about how Robbie Gould, and he's going, oh boy, this guy's money, when he's making a 33-yard field goal. It's like, okay, just enough of this. I'm done with it. Enough.
It's so infuriating. I just want to drop kick every announcer that loves to bring up that narrative. The Bears could be playing the Vikings and they're like, oh, Robbie Gould. I'm like, he's not even in this game. Why are you bringing him up? He hasn't been a Bear in years. This is his third team after the Bears?
Right. No, I think second. Because it was Giants and then 49ers.
Giants, okay, there was no other team in between?
Right.
Okay.
I think so.
Well, anyway, it's multiple teams that he's played for. Nobody brings it up. Oh, the Giants got rid of Robbie Gould. No, they don't. They don't do that.
Yeah. And look, you want to be critical about Cody Parkey, fine. You want to say you're kind of annoyed with Cody Parkey, fine. I get that. Believe me, I get that. But the constant bringing up of Robbie Gould, I'm just, enough. I'm done with that stuff.
And the last thing I just want to talk about with this offense is, and this is a positive, it was nice to see Taylor Gabriel and Allen Robinson getting involved in the offense more. I think that's going to be important come the playoffs in that second round. The first round, it's going to be cold weather. It's going to be January in Chicago. I think it's going to be a lot more of Trey Burton. It's going to be a lot more Adam Shaheen, Tariq Cohen, and Jordan Howard. But if you're going to win against the Saints in New Orleans, or you're going to win in Los Angeles against the Rams, you're going to need to incorporate both those guys heavily in your offense.
Right. Exactly.
Defense. What can you say? Defense came to play. Defense travels well.
Front seven did their job. You had a great pick by Danny Trevathan. I mean, they were basically trying to counter the Bears defense with what a lot of teams try to do, quick passes, quick plays. And, there was a time when the defense was starting to get beat a little bit, but they were able to adjust and take the ball away. I mean, there were times when, they were driving and then they made a big play. They either got into, towards the end zone and then they shut it down, or like Trevathan took the ball away. It was bend, don't break, or just flat out destroy them. And look, I think we can all just say it again, as we have said many, many, many times. Akeem Hicks is just a monster. He is unreal. I think he was probably the best player on the field for the Bears today.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Khalil Mack was great too, but I think you're right. I think Akeem Hicks was the best player. Even when he wasn't getting to the quarterback, he was knocking down passes, tipping passes. He was basically taking the guard or the center and driving them backwards. That pocket collapsed regularly and quickly. And they only got to Mullins one time, and that was the Roquan Smith sack.
Mm-hmm.
But the number of hurries and the amount of pressure that Mullins was on was unreal. It was unreal amount of pressure for only one sack.
Well, yeah, for sure. And again, we can't measure everything that a front seven does just with sack numbers. Now, there were times where I thought he had a little too much time to throw, but overall, the pressure was on him, and he was making the quick plays, so it was almost not a lot of time for the front seven to get to him. If it was maybe 2-3 more seconds, then yeah, you probably get to him a few more times, but he got that ball off pretty quick, and, granted, some of his players made some really nice plays, but yeah, you can't just measure what the front seven does in sacks recorded. You know what I mean? You know exactly what I mean. It's to your point.
Yeah, and Mullins, what has he averaged? They showed it on the screen over the second half of the season. He's had really good foot numbers, and I can tell you because I'm in my fantasy football league finals right now, and it's a 2 quarterback league, and this is a long tangent to get to the point, but I ended up in the finals with Nick Foles and Nick Mullins as my 2 quarterbacks. And Nick Mullins has got me to the playoff finals because he's been playing really well. And the Bears just made him look bad. He threw for 241 yards, but never really even smelled the end zone and ended up with a quarterback rating of under 66.
Yeah. Can I just say how ridiculous it was that he had a clear first down to run to on their final play of the game, and he decided to throw a Hail Mary pretty much out of bounds?
Yeah, I don't understand that, and I don't know if that's part of the pressure that the Bears had on him, that he was, because was it Leonard Floyd that was coming? There's somebody was coming. I don't know if he just felt like they were coming faster than they really were, or if he didn't have enough room, or if he was just seeing ghosts. Whatever the case may be, he could have easily run for that first down. Instead, he threw one that my friend was arguing that he's like, I'm so shocked that wasn't called pass interference, but that was just a really greatly defended ball. I mean, it was perfect coverage. They were the two, Sherrick McManus and the wide receiver were hand fighting a little bit, but it was nothing you're going to call because it's both of them are doing it. Then Sherrick McManus got his head all the way around. And once you get your head around, they allow you a lot more leeway because you're actively going for the ball, trying to get it. And the defender has just as much right to try to catch the pass as the wide receiver. So McManus got his head around. And then plus the ball was, 5 yards out of bounds. It was uncatchable. So, all those things, there's no way that they were going to call a pass interference on that.
And there were some really bad calls and non-calls. I mean, luckily they picked up that one flag that was called on pass interference on Sherrick McManus, because that would have been awful. Can I just go on a
Yeah,
Can I
that
just
was
go on a
terrible.
quick rant about the officiating? There was one thing that really pissed me off.
There's a lot of things that pissed me off, but let's start our rant on the officiating.
You know what? There's two. I'll start with one. Look, I understand there's going to be missed calls. It's a very hard thing to do, officiate an NFL game. It's fast, there's a lot of bodies, and only so many refs, so many eyes. And I get that there are some things that are going to look deceiving. You know, a flop of one arm can make it look like you hit somebody when you didn't. I understand that. But to give the 49ers a phantom timeout and first down that clearly wasn't a first down, allowing them to kick a field goal after reviewing it, how is that excusable?
I'm gonna sum this up for anybody that may have missed it. Went to the bathroom, like my buddy. He went to the bathroom and missed this, or was helping his kid with the bathroom, but missed it. It is so. There's no timeouts left. The 49ers have no timeouts. They can't stop the clock. They throw a pass, which Mike Pereira, former head of NFL officiating, basically said there's no way that's first down. Every replay shows not a first down, and it ends up being, there's like 6 seconds left on the clock, and the 49ers run up and spike the ball. Now, that should have been spiking the ball on 4th down, which means it turned over on downs. The Bears get the ball. They time runs out, and the 49ers don't score. Instead, the officials, they huddle up, and after a long time, decide that it was a first down, and that they'll start the clock running again on their whistle. So then they give the 49ers the time to set up their kicking team, and they don't blow the whistle until they're ready to snap it. And once they blow the whistle, they just snap it and kick it. And it basically gave them a free timeout and an extra down. And it's crap. And I'm guaranteeing you, the reason that they called that a first down is because how do you go back and justify that? Well, it wasn't a first down and they spiked it on 4th down, so it's a turnover. Like, how do they go back and do that? How do they handle that? And the easiest way for them is to say, oh, well, it was a first down, because then it's sort of a moot point.
Clearly wasn't a first down.
It clearly was not a first down, and that was an absolutely bad call. And officials need to be reprimanded and fined and disciplined for that, because that was just blatantly bad and wrong.
Well, I was thinking too earlier on, I'm like, how can anybody in the NFL office see that and not do anything about it? I mean, that's inexcusable. They're not going to, I get it, but man.
It's infuriating.
It's beyond infuriating. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then the other one was, there was that really drove me crazy, is there was a play where Trubisky scrambled for the first down and he slid, and well after his slide is a defender came and hit him late and hit him in the head right on the Bears sideline, and a bunch of shoving and some punches were thrown, and the way that the referees handled that was so absolutely poor. It was embarrassing for the league.
It really was. And what did it take them? Like 15, 20 minutes to sort everything out? They had to go to commercial.
It was
break.
A long time.
I'm
yeah,
like,
it was
what,
a
what
long
the hell is the
time.
holdup here? What the hell is the holdup? And okay, I get it. The Bears were going to be penalized for a few things, but it did not make sense to me that they were going to be offsetting after our quarterback nearly got his neck snapped off. But
Yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
The league, they're doing all these things to protect the quarterback, where they're calling, fining and penalizing Leonard Floyd for touching a QB's helmet as he ran by, just tapping him on the head. That's a penalty. But they're letting guys just take a free running charge on Mitch Trubisky after he slides. Like,
I mean, it's lucky it wasn't head to head.
it was chest to head. He definitely hit him in the face. Like, it should have been that. I mean, I think that there should be an ejection at this point, because, like, how are you going to let multiple teams take a running starts and hit Mitch Trubisky? It's, this is the starting quarterback for one of the best teams in the NFL. And you would never see that happen with Tom Brady. You would never see that with Aaron Rodgers. That you would not let them get away with it. This is unreal that they let it happen to Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I know. I was infuriated as it was, but I try to think, okay, they're gonna get a penalty out of this probably, and Mitch looked okay, but it ended up being offset. And okay, you could take away some of what you could get back because the Bears committed some penalties, but I don't think it makes much sense to offset when our guy was the one that nearly had his head taken off. But I mean, I think that's really just kind of a problem with the rules. It's not really just the officiating crew. There was a whole bunch of problems there, but it's something that still stuck out to me in this game because, again, how long did it take him to sort it out? I don't even know. It was a long time. I was more upset at just the officiating crew for the phantom timeout and field goal, but I was more upset with the league and how this stuff is handled when Trubisky got hit and there was that whole brouhaha. And hey, props to the Bears teammates for sticking up for their quarterback.
Yeah, my only concern is that if the league suspends either of those guys, if they do, I hope the penalty comes this week so they can serve it against the Vikings and not in the playoffs. But if they get penalty or suspensions, it's going to be really, really frustrating on my part to the NFL. And to be frank, a piss poor decision, but you just hope it doesn't impact the Bears in the playoffs.
Okay, so I want you to tell me this. Do you think that any of our guys deserve to be suspended? I mean, do you think that at all?
No, but the league is going to look at that Bellamy threw punches.
Right. I mean, that's the Bellamy throw punches is where I could understand a suspension or a hefty fine. That I would understand, but some of the others, I mean, come on. Our quarterback got nailed.
Here's the situation. Yeah, is this the quarterback got hit late and in the head, right on the sideline after he gave himself up, and his teammates were defending him, and a bunch of other players got involved, and
including
Kyle Long. I don't think
Kyle Long was in the middle of that.
If they suspend somebody, I think it's just a terrible decision on the part of the NFL.
It was a whole mess, not only on the field, but just with the officiating, with the NFL. That's one of the many things that made this game very ugly, was just the officiating in general, and particularly that moment.
So, going up into this week, the most likely situation that's going to happen is that we're going to end up playing the Minnesota Vikings back-to-back weeks. This week in Minnesota, and then the week after in Chicago in the first round of the playoffs. honestly, I don't know. I don't know the right answer of how to go about this. Do you rest your starters and just, so everybody's healthy going into that last week? Or do you just go in there and try to put a beat down on the Minnesota Vikings to, get a psychological advantage going into that first round? And you're like, hey, we beat you up in Chicago. We beat you up on your home field, and you're coming back to Chicago. We're going to beat you up again. I just don't know the right thing to do. Do you show them anything? Do you try to play vanilla offense and defense so they don't know what to expect from you? Matt Nagy's got decisions he's got to make on this game.
Well, whenever I think about this scenario, I remember what happened in 2010 when the Bears took it easy against the Packers, and that eventually came back to bite them. Because if they kind of took it easy against the Vikings, they could very well just let them in the playoffs. And I would feel pretty good about our chances against them again at Soldier Field. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think if I'm Coach Sean and I'm the one running this team, I think I'm going for the win, and I'm going to hammer everybody, and I'm going to try to push to get this victory and knock them out of the playoffs if possible, and then set the tone for what that next game is going to be. Is we showed you how dominant we are, beating you twice. We're going to beat you a third time too.
And I think that, you could start playing really well, but let's say it's later in the game and you're down by a lot, then maybe you could just be like, all right, we don't want to risk anything. May depend on how the game goes, but I'm going to imagine the Bears are going to come out trying to win. I don't think they're going to try to rest. Now, if the Vikings were out, then I'd say, oh yeah, they're going to rest their guys. Heck, if they weren't even chasing a first round bye, they probably would have rested their guys this week, or at least maybe not played them as hard, because you don't want them to get too rusty. But they probably would have taken it easy a little bit. But this is a scenario where you're probably going to see them playing hard. That's my opinion.
And here's the scenarios here. Right now, I think we already talked about it, but the Rams, if they win against the 49ers, they're the number 2 seed. If they lose against the 49ers and the Bears beat the Vikings, then the Bears are the number 2 seed, which it's a really unlikely scenario. Bears are either number 2 or number 3 seed. They can't fall any lower than 3rd. So that leaves the Cowboys are locked in at 4. They can't go up or down because they're the division winners after their win to this weekend. So that means it's between 3 teams that the Bears could play. It's either the Seahawks, the Vikings, or the Eagles. The Seahawks right now just took the lead against the Kansas City Chiefs. So then they play Arizona next week. So that's an easy schedule. They're very, very likely going to be playing the Cowboys, which means either the Bears are going to play the Vikings or the Eagles. And we went through the scenarios earlier that Eagles need to beat the Redskins and the Bears need to beat the Vikings, and the Eagles would be coming to Chicago. And yeah, it's one of those things is in the NFL, you can't ever play to try to position yourself to play another team, because that always comes back to bite you. I think the most prudent thing is if you're the Bears, you just go out there, you win the game against the Vikings, and then you let whoever is going to play you come to Chicago, and whoever it is whoever it is. Don't try hoping for a team or playing a game to get one team over another. Is just go in there and take care of business every game, and whoever comes to Chicago is just make it a painful experience for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing about the first game is it's going to be here in Chicago. It's a good way to kick it off.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Who is more important? Who do you think is more important going forward for the Bears? Mitch Trubisky or Tariq Cohen?
Well, I got to say our quarterback.
So do you think the Bears could make a playoff run if, God forbid, Tariq Cohen was hurt and couldn't play?
I think it'd be more likely that they could do it without Tariq Cohen with Trubisky, and without Trubisky and Tariq Cohen, I don't think Chase Daniel could lead a playoff run.
Okay, so you think he's more important than Mitch is more important to this offense than Tariq. But who has been your MVP on offense for the season so far?
Well, I mean, Tariq's got to be up there.
I'm going to agree with you on the most part. Is I think Mitch is more important, but I think Tariq Cohen is your MVP because he's been the engine that's kept this offense functioning. But I think you're right. I think without Tariq, it's going to be a hard win, but you can do it. But without Mitch, I don't think there's any way you can. I don't think there's any way you can win the playoffs with a backup quarterback, especially after what we saw.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Right. I mean, Tariq Cohen could be making the most plays out of anybody. He could be your MVP, but the fact of the matter is, if you take your starting QB out of the equation, that would mean Chase Daniel is leading your offense. And sure, it could lead you to a road win or a here or there in Detroit or, something like that. But in the playoffs, yeah, you can't count on that.
And speaking of Trubisky, I've been flipping through a lot of radio shows, both national and local. And it's amazing how many people that talk about football for a living have already made the assumption that Mitch Trubisky is not as good as Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. I mean, all three of these players are in their second year. How in the world are you going to assign who is better and who is worse?
Football is a very reactionary sport. Week by week, we say certain things about certain teams, then can change it the next week. So I just think it's part of the reactionary nature of the sport. I mean, look, last week, Bears fans were talking Super Bowl, the way they destroyed Aaron Rodgers and, all that. While this week we may have won, but a lot of people are very concerned about this Bears team going forward and questioning the playoffs. So I just think it's part of the very reactionary, type that fans are when it comes to football. And, I mean, right now, Pat Mahomes is doing a lot of great things and, he's looking like a star. And, Deshaun Watson's done some nice things. I think, the numbers for them look pretty good, but, we'll see what happens in the future. I just try not to think about it. As long as Trubisky gets better under the Bears and the Bears can win some games with him, in the end, Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes, I'll worry about them if we have to play him in a Super Bowl. But, outside that, whatever.
Yeah, it's just really infuriating that, and this is not, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I think all three young men are, they seem like high character guys. I root for all three on the sort. I mean, not like, I'm rooting for, the other two to win that aren't Trubisky, but it's not like, I want, there's people that are bad people like Michael Vick that you don't want them to succeed at anything. But, these are guys you're like, I want them to be successful. They,
Sure.
They, seem high character guys, are doing, good young men. You want to see them succeed. But just be in a second year for quarterbacks to assign who is going to be the best of the three and saying, oh, definitely, they made a mistake drafting this one over this one. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you do these kind of knee-jerk things is, all right, in his second season, Peyton Manning threw 15 interceptions and had a lower quarterback rating than Mitch Trubisky. Would you have been like, oh, you made a mistake drafting Peyton Manning? No, it's these guys are going to play until their mid to late 30s. They're in their early 20s. They've got another 10, 15 years left to play. Let them play it out. See what you have after that. Let them at least play 4 years before you start going, maybe this. And it's also stupid to go back and have revisionist history. It's easy to be like, oh man, you should have drafted this guy over this guy when you see what they did in the NFL. But if we could do that, do you think Tom Brady would have gone in the 6th round?
Probably not.
No. Everybody would have been tanking in the league to get that first pick to get Tom Brady. But that's just not what happens. That's not how the league goes. So you look at the high upside is the Bears looked at all the film and everything, and Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes came out of a system. He was a system quarterback, and that was the concern because everybody else coming out of that same system stunk in the NFL. And Deshaun Watson throws a lot of interceptions, and there's issues with the completion percentage. Mitch Trubisky was a guy that didn't play a lot, so you thought he was going to be more raw. And so it's, they all had their flaws, and you had to make a decision based on their college tape and their workouts. The Bears felt very comfortable with Mitch Trubisky, and you know what? His team won the division, and they're going to the playoffs. So he can't be doing something, to everybody wrong.
He's had a lot of good games. He's had some bad games, but he's had a lot of good games too, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
You talk about Jared Goff being a potential MVP. He had a bad game against the Bears. Every quarterback's going to have a bad game. I'm watching this game right now, but
you notice when those kind of guys struggle, they get all the excuses in the world. It was cold outside. He's never played, Soldier Field. It's stuff like that.
He's never worn a hat before because he's only ever been in 70-degree or higher weather.
Never worn a hat.
Yeah, I'm watching this. We're talking this Kansas City Seattle game, and you know what? I'm waiting for. I haven't watched a lot of Pat Mahomes in this season. I've just seen a lot of highlights and a few games here and there. He looks pedestrian in this game. I'm going to say it. Looks pedestrian. And I get that Seattle has a pretty good defense, but, he's missing throws. They're struggling to score points. And so, are you going to beat him up and talk about how he's a failure? It's just silliness.
No, they're just going to call him young. They're going to call him he's young and he's learning, which is true. It's true, but that's got to be applied fairly to other quarterbacks in that situation.
It's the same reason I'm not going to beat up Sam Darnold, and I'm not going to anoint Baker Mayfield as the best player in the draft last year, because you don't know. Sam Darnold's had a really rough year this year, but it's his rookie season. So I'm not assigning it. It boggles my mind.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
One more thing I wanted to talk about with the Bears is Pro Bowl, announcements were made, and the Bears had 5 Pro Bowlers this year, which equals the sum of their last 4 seasons.
Isn't that something? And finally, Akeem Hicks gets the credit he deserves. Finally.
Absolutely. That was the biggest snub of anybody in a long time. Akeem Hicks is a beast. So Akeem Hicks gets the Pro Bowl nod. Khalil Mack, obviously. Kyle Fuller got it and well-deserved. And it makes you go back and sort of laugh at all the people that are like, oh, the Bears made a mistake signing him. The guy leads the NFL in interceptions and is a Pro Bowler.
Huh. You know, I really wish you would have done your voice right there.
The Bears are so stupid. You don't understand. They're doing this. They could have let him walk, and he was a bad player, and they paid too much money for him, and they didn't. They could have give him the 5th-year option. They decided not to do it, and that was a mistake. And now they're paying so much money for this guy, and he's not even that good. And you don't know what you're going to get. Guess what? He leads the league in interceptions, and he's a Pro Bowler, and he is part of the best defense in football. So suck it, people that with voices like that.
And I mean, look, a lot of people are going to remember that dropped pick in week 1. Well, you know what? He was such a great guy. He dropped that pick so we could clinch the NFC North against the Packers at home. What a great guy. What a great guy.
We also got Eddie Jackson in the Pro Bowl, and in somewhat surprising fashion, Tariq Cohen. And it's funny, they got him as a kick returner, but honestly, his best work has been as a as an offensive player. And I think it was just a nod to get offensive weapon a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, they just wanted to get him in, and they said, okay, he returns kicks, so we'll just bring him in that way.
Yeah, and then what's even more impressive than the 5 Pro Bowlers they got is the 7 alternates.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky, Cody Whitehair, Charles Leno Jr., Trey Burton, Leonard Floyd, Danny Trevathan, and Roquan Smith. All Pro Bowl alternates. That is amazing. Like, when was the last time we had this many people getting the nod? It's not just popular vote anymore. There's other factors that go into this. So that's just a portion of it. So it's not like, oh, they're stacking the deck like in Major League Baseball. You're seeing people recognizing the Bears players and the positive things that they're doing and rewarding them.
Right on.
And then speaking of Roquan Smith, this is the last thing I have to say. You may have some other things. Is if he gets 8 tackles in the game against the Vikings, he will tie Brian Urlacher for the record of most tackles by a Bears rookie in the history of their organization for a rookie season.
That is quite an accomplishment. And even if he doesn't quite get it, that, to be that close, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially considering that he didn't start right away because of the camp holdout.
Yeah.
He led the team in tackles again today. This guy is legit. And the thing is you watch him play and you're still seeing mistakes, but he's still this good despite the mistakes. Is just imagine when he has an off season to learn to get better, he is going to be an absolute beast.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's got a bright future ahead of him. It's exciting.
So I'm excited for this game against the Vikings. I'm excited for the playoffs, and
so bring on Atlanta, bring on Dallas. This is for Mike and Papa Bear Hallis.
I thought today you weren't going to go meatball, but you did.
I did. I still went meatball. This was a terribly ugly win, but you know what? It was a road win. We got it, and we are 1 week closer to the playoffs, and we didn't suffer any major injuries, and we are this is exciting times. This is something we haven't seen in a long time. This is exciting times.
Yeah, it really is.
And I'm not gonna temper my expectations. This is a team. They're gonna beat the Vikings. Then they're going to go home and they're going to beat either the Vikings or the Eagles. Then they're going to go to wherever they're going, I guess the Rams, and they're going to pack the stadium full of Bears fans like there was today. The number of Bears fans at this game today was unreal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw like the sideline shots. There was so much just navy blue and orange there.
But when calls were made that went against the Bears, you could hear the boos. You couldn't hear the cheers. It was the boos. Is listening to the crowd is, if you were just listening to this, like you were a blind person and didn't know where they're playing, you just heard the audio, you would have assumed that this was a home game for the Bears because of how loud the Bears fans were and how well they traveled.
Yeah, and I mean, you heard some "Let's Go Bears" chants going on, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and if you do not think that the Bears fans won't fly to Los Angeles, you are sorely mistaken. They will be there.
They'll take over that place. Like not just like match. They'll take over that place.
Because guess what, Los Angeles fans, is we remember those first few weeks of the season when there was like 10,000 people in your stadium. We remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
But that's all I have about the Bears. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, not really. It was really ugly, unpleasant game, but it was a win in the end, and that's what makes it worth it. Yeah, I got nothing else.
So do you want to talk a little Cubs?
Yeah, sure.
So the Cubs this week, they signed a pitcher. They signed Kendall Graveman, who was the opening day starter for the Oakland A's. And
not that you would know, because even I had to go, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I did too. So he is, he was the opening day starter for the A's, who made the playoffs. And at the end of July, he needed Tommy John surgery. So he had that surgery, I believe it was July 30th. So the likelihood of this guy playing for the Cubs next year are pretty much slim and none.
It was like Drew Smiley last year. He never did play with the Cubs, and he was gotten rid of.
Yeah, that's exactly the type of signing. It's, I mean, I've actually been calling it the Drew Smiley 2 signing. So he gets a major league contract worth $575,000 for 2019 with a $3 million club option for 2020. That option year does not include a buyout. Even one day on the 2019 roster, however, will trigger an escalator clause, bringing Graveman's salary to $2 million, and he can earn an additional $500,000 in performance bonuses. And I just don't understand the signing. I mean, his high water mark came in 2016, working to a 10-11 record in 186 innings over 31 starts with a 4.11 ERA and a 4.39 FIP. He's got a career 23-29 record and a 4.38 ERA. Like, why? What's the point?
I guess there's no downside to it. Either he works out somehow or he doesn't, and that's about it. But yeah, I got nothing really else to add. There was nothing really exciting there. And look, here's something that, maybe I've overreacted a few times on Twitter about the Cubs doing stuff. I want to reiterate the fact that the Cubs have a long way to go in the offseason. There's still plenty of players unsigned. There can still be moves made. But it is still frustrating to see teams all around them, like the Cardinals getting Paul Goldschmidt and Andrew Miller, and you had the Reds make that huge trade. The teams around you are getting better. So you're going to need to counter a little bit. I know the team is already good, but when your team is seeing your other rivals get better, you need to do something, and they will. But
you just wonder what's going to happen because, if you look at it, is the Cardinals definitely got better by bringing Paul Goldschmidt and Andrew Miller on the team. The Brewers are already, won the division last year, and the Reds got better, and the Reds were a competitive team in the second half of last year, and you're adding, who knows what you're going to get from Matt Kemp, but Yasiel Puig in that stadium is probably going to be a 30 home run guy.
Oh yeah, he's going to rake at Great American Ballpark.
Yeah. So, the Reds have gotten better, and the Pirates were a good team. This is going to be a tough division. So,
probably the best one in baseball.
Yeah. And so, this is your window, Cubs. This is your window. And I get it that, you have these mystery and magical financial constraints that nobody understands. But
I'm still not convinced that that's fully the case. I want to see this off season get through first. I don't buy it.
I just don't understand. We just told that it is there. And I don't know if it's just a talking point or a tactical, thing, or if it's somehow there's constraints that we don't know about.
I think this is just a theory. I think that they're just maybe not really sure what exactly their financial situation is going to be because they're still trying to work out this TV deal. I think that is a factor in it. I don't know for sure if it is, but that's just kind of my thought, that it has something to do with this TV deal. I don't know what you think about that, but that's my idea.
I get the TV deal doesn't kick in until like 2020.
Right, but you would have everything set up.
Yeah.
You know what your financial situation would be.
So, maybe that's the case where they're, until it's all signed, sealed, and delivered, that you don't want to spend money that, isn't guaranteed to be there. If that's the case, but still, there's also the possibility that I know that there's Major League Baseball rules about when you purchase a team, your like debt to profit ratio has to be, within a certain window. And sometimes when a club changes ownership, that is a some sort of restraint and constriction that they have. Constraint, I guess. But still, this is a team that is a big market team with a lot of money and billionaire owners, and the way they charge fans for everything, they should be spending. And we want to see a big name free agent. This was a disappointing season. We want to see. We got one World Series. Going to several straight division or NLCS is not good enough. We want more World Series. The World Series is really tough to win. It's a really tough thing to win. And all the cards, it's not just being, NBA, it's if you're the best team, you pretty much win barring injuries. The NFL, for the most part, you're the best team, you win. Hockey, you're the best team, more than likely you're winning the Stanley Cup. Baseball, it's not always the best team, because the best team over the whole season might just hit a cold streak at the wrong time.
Sure. And
out. There's a lot of factors go in. You got to be good, and you got to be good at the right time. And so, you've got to stack the deck in your favor. And I know that neither of the big name free agents, the two biggest names, Machado and Harper, have signed anywhere, but people are already penciling them in places.
Oh yeah.
Harper, people are already penciling in being a Dodger, and Machado, they're penciling into being a Yankee.
Yeah.
So, that's a big knock for the White Sox. It's a big knock for the Cubs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're going to have to see how it plays out, but, we're reading the reports that the Bears told Boris to wait.
Cubs.
Sorry. Bears are still in my mind. I'm sorry. But yeah, you know what I mean. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I still think Machado is the better option for the Cubs because then you could dump Addison Russell.
Well, I think they can make other moves to dump Addison Russell too. That's a whole other topic that I'm sick about. It just get rid of the guy already. Hopefully they do by the arbitration deadline.
Yeah, I mean, while we're here so we already saw the awful story of what Addison Russell did to his now ex-wife, and the hell he put her through and the abuse, that he put in his family. It was sickening, and I think most of us were really upset that he was still a part of this team. And then we get reports out of another situation, and
with another woman that he had a kid with.
Yeah, this is a different woman in a different situation, and this one, is this guy has serious issues. He has serious anger, control, emotional issues, and it's despicable. And the worst part for me, honestly, is if the second woman's story, if you believe everything, is that the Cubs, she accused the Cubs of trying to cover up the situation. And if that's the case, honestly, I think Theo needs to go.
Well, okay, so I read that. I was trying to see, was he really involved in that, or was it just trying to get the social media to block? I don't remember exactly what it said.
Yeah, it was very vague as far as that, but it seemed like the story was being suppressed by the Cubs, and I don't know if it was just the social media aspect or...
Because that's all I read. I didn't actually read anything about the front office being involved in that, so I don't know if he was involved in that or not.
But honestly, I want Major League Baseball to fully investigate that part of the allegation, because that, that was, we already knew that Addison Russell was a pile of garbage, but when that portion came out, it really made me sick. And I was like, is the organization part of this?
Now, did it say that they actually did go through with the blocking, or that it was just talked about? I didn't see that in full detail. Or I did, I just don't remember what it said.
I didn't see any full details about it. It was just like vague part of her story. There was some very concrete things, but that was the vague part. And, I want somebody to look into what exactly that part of the claim was and flush it out, because if this is anything more than just one pile of garbage being a pile of garbage, and there's any sort of institutional, part of the Cubs taking part of this, then I'm going to be just absolutely livid.
Oh, me too. And I think that if, they see the Cubs social media was kind of in on it, then, whoever is involved in that should be let go as well. I mean, that's how I see it. I just wish that Epstein didn't even consider bringing him back, because gave him a non-guaranteed deal. It's not guaranteed, but I just, the fact that they're even considering having him play on the team. Now, Theo says he wants to be part of the solution and work towards it. It's like, okay, I get that you want to work towards it, and is them getting involved the best? It's kind of hard to say, but clearly they're at least trying to do something along those lines. But I think that, you can still do that without employing the person, because I think they have to suffer consequences over this. And a consequence would not be playing with the team anymore, even if you're going to try to better them.
So what's the timeline of this second woman's story? Is this recent, or is this she's coming forward now?
I think it might be coming forward. I don't know.
Because here's my thing. If this happened before Addison Russell was suspended those 40 games or whatever he was suspended for the Melissa Reedy situation, then don't the Cubs, if they know about this situation and they didn't come forward, isn't that a black eye on the Cubs? And
I mean, probably.
If they didn't know about this, like, what sort of investigation did they do? Like, you would think that if Addison Russell is accused of spousal domestic abuse, that you would talk to all of his partners and see what they have to say. So what kind of investigation went into this? And if the Cubs did know something and didn't come forward, like, that's just really bad. Like, this is just a terrible situation. Is, either people didn't do a good job of investigating this, or they just didn't want this to come out anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not gonna accuse the Cubs of covering anything up yet, because we don't have any concrete evidence that was the case or not. But I will add this. I think that they've known for a long time that he's been kind of I don't know how to say it, but I remember a story coming out like in 2015 saying the Cubs told him he has to, quote, calm down because he was, with relationships with women, not necessarily looking at domestic abuse, but you remember he had kids with several women. And I think the Cubs, it was a story that came out either 2015, 2016, that the Cubs told him to kind of settle down with his personal life. And, I don't know how much they knew then. So again, I'm not going to full out accuse the Cubs of covering things up before this all came out. But, I think that with what they know now, I think they got to take a different approach here.
Yeah, I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying is that's in my mind, there's a scenario. Either the scenarios are this happened after the investigation and the Cubs are dealing with it now, or if this happened before, they knew about it, covered it up, or pretend they didn't know, or that the investigation was not very thorough because they didn't expand past Melissa Reedy. Those are, in my head, those are the option, the scenarios that occurred, and none of them are very good for anybody. This is a bad situation for the league, for the Cubs. I just think this was handled very poorly overall, and it's sad, and it's sad most of all for the women involved.
Yeah, and I think that I think a lot of people should be upset. I mean, not just Cub fans. I mean, this shouldn't be something that people are like, ho, yeah, look at the Cubs. Look at what, asshole losers they are. That makes me better about my team. It's like, I think in this kind of situation, everyone should be upset that this is happening, because at the end of the day, what's most important are the victim and the family here. So, it's not just the Cubs issue. It's an issue all around, I think, sports that needs to be handled better. But you could definitely look at the Cubs and say, you know what, this wasn't handled well at all. And I'm still kind of upset about it, to be honest with you. I mean, the way I've read about this guy, I've also read stories from fans who've encountered him, and, they've said that he's really not a nice guy. He just sounds like a freaking lunatic. When I read this stuff, he sounds like a freaking lunatic.
hopefully he's gone. I mean, that's all you can hope for.
Yeah, he's replaceable. You could find somebody else.
Yes. You can find somebody else to bat 250 and strike out in big situations.
Yeah, I mean,
Boom,
look,
roasted.
if you want somebody to replace him, you could find a guy with a good glove. You could find a guy who's a middle of the road hitter. They're out there.
Or you could sign Manny Machado.
Well, I think he's going to the Yankees.
But I kind of wanted to talk to Blackhawks because I was like, oh man, they've won 3 in a row. Maybe they're starting to figure this out. But then today's game happened.
I just, I don't think that a few good games is going to change the course of their season.
I was hopeful, but the realism set in, and it's not the case.
But hey, give credits to the youngins for playing good. DeBrincat looks amazing. Stromey looks good. You're still getting some good play from Jonathan Tays. Now it's time for Colin Delia to kind of show what he has. So
I mean, he played the one game and he looked good. Cam Ward is back in goal. But I mean, ultimately, what happens with Corey Crawford?
I'm not a doctor. I'm not him. I'm not his family. But if I had to take a guess, I think most chances are likely that he's done. Period.
It's really hard for me to believe that he's gonna come back.
And I for his sake, I kind of want him to call him quits because 2 major concussions, it's just not. It's not safe.
I mean, I don't know if this one was major or if he would have had this 5 years ago, would this one have been major? I don't know. It didn't look at that bad. I think he'd gone through so many, the fight with going through concussion and concussion syndrome and the aftermath of concussions. He really struggled to come back, and it was such a mystery. What's going on with him? Where is he? What's his prognosis? And he talked about there was some days that he felt better and then it would just get worse. And then to get a concussion, very, very, very soon after that just seems devastating. And
I know. I feel so bad for the guy.
I mean, he's got, what does he have, like a 1-year-old kid? He's got a young kid. Think of life after hockey and, really take this into consideration. I know you love the game and you love your teammates and you love playing for this organization and you want to win another Stanley Cup. And I understand all those things, but man, you don't want a situation where, even best case scenario is like, if you recover from the actual symptoms of the concussions is, you probably got a really good shot of having CTE and the damage that comes with that.
Right. I'm just worried about him. I'm worried about his health. That's why if he called quits, I could at least say, well, he's not going to take any chances. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how severe it is, but if I were a family member of his, I would want him to stop just for his own safety and for his family's sake. I would hate to see any more damage come to him.
That's probably the best way to put it is, I'm not saying this is what's happening. I'm just saying is if I'm somebody that cares about him, friend, family, etc., and I see this situation, I'm looking at it as I want him to move on from hockey. And that's my That's my opinion, just from, being somebody that's caring about him. And I'm not a doctor. I haven't evaluated him. I'm not him. I'm not, anywhere within the organization. It's just from the road to coming back and just the nature of the injury that he just got. It's rough. It's a rough one to look at.
Yeah, it is. And I just, he's one of my favorites. And he'll always be one of my favorites. So I just hope for the best for him in the end.
Yeah. So I don't know what else to say. Is I root for the best, and I hope if he does come back, it's because he's truly feeling healthy and is recovered and is signed off on. Multiple neurologists have signed off, and not just him and his desire to play. Like, I hope that it's truly a medical, he's cleared and good. I just don't want to see him have lifelong issues.
And you know what? If he doesn't play hockey anymore, I'm sure the Blackhawks would be more than happy to offer some kind of position to him. Even if it's just like an ambassador, I'm sure the Hawks would love to still have him around. If
he never plays another game, he is still going to be absolutely loved in this city.
Absolutely. He's gonna go down as one of the most successful Blackhawks of all time. I mean, when you think about it, there have been so many great Blackhawks, and Corey Crawford is the only goaltender for the Blackhawks to, I believe, he's the only goaltender to win multiple Stanley Cups with the Blackhawks.
I think you're right.
Because I mean, I don't really know who the goaltenders were in the 30s when they won their first two. Because I know you won in 61. You never won one with Tony Esposito. You never won one with Ed Belfour. You won one with Antti Niemi. But you won two with Corey Crawford. And Corey Crawford was one of the big reasons you won those two Stanley Cups.
Yeah, absolutely. A big reason.
And he should have won three, but,
That's neither here nor there. But is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, not really.
Well, I guess that's going to do it. I just don't want to talk about the Bulls. They're annoying.
I don't either. I don't either.
I'll leave that to our friend Big Dave and his show, The Bulls Outsiders, on after the.
God bless you, Big Dave. You know how much I love you.
I love you, Big Dave, and you having to talk about this team professionally every night. You're a better man than I, because I would just be banging. My whole show would just be me banging my head against a wall.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he's really doing, God's work right there.
But that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. Want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please check us out on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swirsky Sports, Facebook.com/Swirsky Sports, SwirskySports.com. Hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or the TuneIn app. And your job this week is to share this podcast with at least one friend who is in Chicago sports. And thank you guys so much again for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.